Why will most crypto projects fail to survive this bear market? What are some key concepts and red flags to stay mindful of when trying to determine if a crypto project will succeed? Hello, I'm Crypto Casey, and in this video, we are going to explore some important frameworks we should understand as investors in cryptocurrency technology that will help us identify the differences between positive and negative aspects of projects we are interested in. This episode was inspired by a Twitter thread posted by one of my favorite Twitter accounts, economist Natasha Che. So be sure to check her out and give her a follow for more high-quality crypto content. This video is sponsored by FTX, one of the largest US regulated crypto exchanges in the market. More on them later. Awesome. Let's learn how to spot winners versus losers in the crypto world during this bear market. What most people don't understand is at the end of the day, the fastest, most efficient, most green project, or the crypto with the most superior technology, the most decentralized one, or the best all-around blockchain project from a logical or technological standpoint won't necessarily become the most valuable. We can debate all day long about which crypto project is the best, but here's the deal. The value of each platform will be based on a few simple variables. When evaluating layer 1 or 2 crypto platforms, there are two simple variables. One, the size and productivity or output of the software applications built on it. And two, the amount of users, growth of new users, and stickiness of users within the ecosystem. So the layer 1 and 2 projects that become winners in this space will be the ones that successfully create and grow an economy on their blockchain network. The ones that cultivate the greatest amount of innovation that secures and maintains traction on their platforms. Another thing we need to consider when evaluating any type of crypto project, whether it's a software platform, a DeFi tool, a game, a metaverse play, etc., is that everything in this modern world is a business and finance is everything. Entities, regardless of what they are or what they do, are organized and structured like businesses and operate like businesses. Right now in crypto, most people aren't assessing crypto projects as potential businesses or actual functioning economies, when in reality, all entities require finances in order to function and operate successfully. A lot of us are caught up in the story of a project, the narrative it follows, and most importantly, how they can trade it, which has been fine because we're still so early in the development and adoption phase that no real recognizable businesses have formed and are offering goods and services or generating revenue or growing and retaining a user base, or doing anything that indicates from a traditional standpoint that it's sustainable. Most of the money people have made in crypto markets has been by buying something and selling it to someone else at a higher price, which is not sustainable and won't be how the successful digital assets and ecosystems will operate in the future. This is likely our modern .com era opportunity. And one of the biggest bull runs has yet to come, because the technology is still in the development phase and has yet to evolve into more structured and organized entities. Entities with clear proof and data that they are generating revenue, growing and retaining a user base, and are ultimately sustainable and valuable operations. So a simple way to view the crypto space from an investment standpoint is to imagine platforms like Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, and Polygon as economies similar to actual countries, and consider projects built on them, like Uniswap, Chainlink, and Aave, as actual businesses that operate within those countries. I go into a lot more detail about how we should evaluate layer 1 and 2 crypto platforms in this video you can check out by clicking on the link above. So let's think about a few different scenarios to help us wrap our minds around these analogies. For example, 3 successful modern-day companies on the stock market that are based in the United States include Apple, Tesla, and Google. So all great companies and all operating within the US, the country with the largest GDP in the world. Strong countries from an economic perspective make it easy for people to access capital through taking out loans. They make it very easy for their population to go to school and become doctors, architects, engineers, and similar. And they have a lot of natural resources like trees, oil, and land that can be converted into building materials, fuel, or farms for food. So basically, a country like the United States has an efficient way for people to convert money, raw materials, labor, and expertise into valuable goods and services. Like starting businesses with loans, there's raw materials for building infrastructure, access to education for people that become engineers that design technology, or doctors that provide healthcare, etc. So with this in mind, let's go back in time and pretend that Apple, Tesla, and Google actually started and were based in another country with low GDP, hardly any access to capital, a smaller, less educated population, and hardly any natural resources. Do you think they would have still become the business giants they are today? Likely not. So before you even fall in love with a crypto project, first you need to assess the platform it's built on, the same way you would assess a startup company based in the United States versus North Korea. So we need to ask ourselves, which layer 1 and 2s that all of these different projects are being built on make it easy to create value as far as onboarding and retaining talent to foster a strong, resilient, innovative armada of developers? Which layer 1s and 2s are accepting and securing venture capital and other funding? Because it takes a massive amount of money, support, and continued funding to build up a country from scratch to a healthy, sustainable size that ideally keeps growing in the future. Which layer 1 and 2s have a robust technological infrastructure, along with support networks like developer tools, connections to wallets, browser extensions, etc. These are the 3 essential aspects we need to assess when researching layer 1 and 2s: human capital, financial capital, and infrastructure. Cool. So start with trying to pick the winners in the layer 1 and 2 realm before trying to pick individual project winners, because at the end of the day, they are at the mercy of the platform's ability to secure both human and financial capital, as well as maintain and grow a scalable technological network and infrastructure. Similar to how a business is at the mercy of a country they start up in and are based in. Nice. So once we've separated the future Netscapes and AOLs from the Googles and Apples when it comes to the layer 1 and 2s, then we need to assess the crypto projects built on them the same way we would assess a real business. And this is the main problem with the crypto economy right now. There is no long-term successful business model that involves activity that is essentially useless and doesn't provide value. Right now, across all cases, gaming, NFTs, DeFi, etc., there is a ton of activity happening that doesn't produce a good, a service, or any real value, or anything actually useful. The most straightforward way this is happening is with most play-to-earn games. Sure, people are clicking around and earning tokens in the process, but it's an illusion of product adoption that requires more and more players doing more useless clicking around in order to sustain itself, which is how a Ponzi scheme works. No good service, value, or use is coming from play-to-earn games right now. Another common thing in the crypto space are these projects that create a token for the sake of a token existing. A red flag should be obvious when we ask ourselves, if the token didn't exist, what product, service, or value, or use is left? For over 90-95% of the projects out there right now, it would be nothing. This is the same exact phenomenon for projects that are a copy of an existing business, except that it's decentralized. Yes, decentralization and censorship resistance is a crucial aspect for certain use cases, but not all use cases. Ask ourselves, do we really need a decentralized, censorship-resistant version of Salesforce? Or Adobe Creative Cloud? Or file storage for most companies and use cases? Or Uber, Slack, Airbnb? I mean, no, not really. Sure, maybe some authentication and identity verification variables for people interacting within an Uber or Airbnb scenario, or maybe integrated crypto payment systems within those apps, but we don't need to copy and paste an Uber app to Ethereum just for the sake of decentralization. It doesn't make sense right now, which is another red flag to look for in crypto when analyzing projects. Copy and pasting. It's extremely easy to copy and paste code, which makes it difficult for up-and-coming crypto businesses built on the blockchain to create and defend their potential competitive advantage. For example, no matter how innovative a DeFi, lending, or exchange protocol may be, they can be infinitely cloned, which may indicate that certain projects are better suited at being a feature of a layer 1 or 2, instead of a standalone business that warrants its own token. At the end of the day, the reality is that although Web3 and blockchain technologies are providing new, innovative ways we can use to more efficiently and fairly distribute value within economies among users, most of the projects that exist right now don't actually provide any good service or value. The viable layer 1 and 2 economies will allow viable crypto businesses to grow and thrive during the bear market, But many of the projects that exist right now won't be around in the long term. The crypto businesses that will survive and thrive will be the ones that integrate with the real economy and use Web3 to improve production and distribution of real goods, services, and value. Most of the projects that will succeed in the future will be a hybrid between traditional businesses and the crypto economy, like the sponsor of this video, FTX. FTX is one of the largest US regulated exchanges in the world that allows its millions of users to buy, sell, trade, and track cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and soon traditional stocks. FTX's fees are up to 85% lower than other top competitors, and there are no fixed minimum fees on transactions, no ACH fees, and no gas fees on their NFT marketplace, which features the most popular Ethereum and Solana NFT collections. Setting up a DCA or dollar cost averaging strategy is extremely simple, which historically delivers the best results during bear markets. With FTX, this literally takes 20 seconds. You open the app, enter a PIN code, tap buy, select the crypto, enter an amount, tap one time, and select a frequency between daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. Tap review, make sure everything looks good, and then slide right to submit the order. And if you are interested in learning how we can supercharge our DCA strategy, I have a video guide which you could check out by clicking on the link above, using strategically placed limit orders on FTX's Pro mobile app, all from the convenience of our cell phone. So if you would like to check out FTX, please make sure to scroll down to the description area below to access the correct and official site, as well as redeem any nice sign-up bonus available as a reward. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell notification to stay up to date on all of the latest videos. So what did you think of the information we covered? Does comparing layer 1 and 2s to countries make sense? What about comparing crypto projects built on them to businesses? Let me know in the comments below. Be safe out there.